But has anyone had their peace disturbed lately? Raise your hand if you've had your peace disturbed lately. Look around at the hands, right? We've got some double-handers out there. Some of you may have had your peace disturbed by something simple that happens, something that happens all the time. Some of you may have huge things that are going on in your lives. Some of you may have had interactions that disturbed your peace. But we all walk around from day to day, right? Having moments where our peace is disturbed. And sometimes those moments are extended moments. So let's think about it for a moment today. What disturbs your peace? What does it to you? What disturbs your peace? Is it the same thing all of the time? Are they patterns you can identify? Is it something outside of you or something inside of you? Is it the world? Is it your relationships? What disturbs your peace? In Unity, when we go through the Advent season, which we are in the midst of, we talk about faith and hope, we talk about peace, we talk about love, we talk about joy, and then we talk about the birth of the Christ consciousness. And those seasons of Advent, those weeks leading up to Advent, aren't just about paying attention to getting those things, to getting hope, to getting peace, to getting love, to getting joy. It's about learning a consciousness of generating those things, learning our power to generate and lift those qualities up, and knowing that when we have lifted those qualities up and we allow them to work together in harmony, then we develop an expression of our anointed, our awakened, our Christ nature. Someone is always going through something, right? And we often, when we interact with each other, we often think we know who someone is or what they're going through or how they feel or what they think, or even worse, what they should be feeling, thinking, or going through, right? And the reality behind life is that most people don't share the intimate details of what they're going through. But we walk around with judgments and ideas that we know how someone should show up, or that we have right judgment around our interactions with ourselves, other people, and the world. But think about yourself for a moment. Have you broadly shared the intimate details about what you're going through? About what challenges you might be facing? It's pretty rare for people to share at such a deep level all of the things that are going on with them and the emotions that they have. It's much more comfortable to say, I'm fine, or to share light versions of a story, or to complain in corners and areas. But to really go into sharing your story or sharing your suffering takes a lot, and it doesn't always happen. It especially doesn't happen with people that we meet on the road, but we go around thinking we have an idea about everything that's going on. Have you listened to us lately? Right? Really listen to your mind lately? The mind always has an idea of what's going on. The mind always listens and then generates thoughts and judgments. That's what the mind does. We assume we know what's in someone's mind. You have no idea what's going on. I have no idea what's going on. We often have no idea how well someone's doing. We often have no idea who someone is. We just completed the series by Jeff Foster for our fall series, and one of the ideas that he shared was that there are as many images and ideas of you as there are people out there. There are as many ideas of you as there are people out there. And the ego mind will try to think we know. But how could it serve us? How can we use the concept, I have no idea, to generate peace when we're feeling disturbed? If we were open to the possibility that we don't know, even in the midst of a mind that automatically comes to conclusions, what might we do instead? What might we do if we use that idea, I have no idea, about someone else, about something outside of myself, sometimes even about something within myself? I have no idea how that is still triggered. I have no idea why these thoughts are running through my head. What might we do if instead of trusting that ego voice that says, I know exactly what's going on, what might we do instead if we surrender to the possibility that I have no idea? We may, in fact, ask questions. We may show up with wonder and inquiry. We may, in fact, be led to experience our inner conditions, our emotions, the sensations, without all of the judgments, without the ideas of what we think is always going on with everyone and everything. We might be left with observing our own minds, observing how they race, how they chase, how they build. And if we're lucky, if we're fortunate, we may see what that mind is building. If we don't assume and make assumptions, we may be left with our own healing, or being the space for someone else's healing, or at least avoiding the transfer of baggage, the transfer of what my stuff is onto your life. Avoiding the baggage transfer. What we need now is love and compassion in the world in this season. But what we often offer is judgment. Some people say that the Christmas season, the holiday season, is like a pencil sharpener. It's like it makes everything more intense. And I think one of the reasons for that is that when we are getting to a season of reflection, given it being the new year is coming around, or a time where you're reflecting on your relationships and what's going on in your life, we begin to unconsciously heighten our expectations. We go into the holiday seasons, into the Christmas season, and there's more of an expectation for people to be kind, or people to be compassionate, or for there to be love, or for something to feel good, for family connections to feel good, for the world to feel good. And there extends a greater and greater gap between our expectations and our experience, which sometimes makes this time more difficult. So what do we do to soften that time? Can we step into this remembrance and the humble attitude of showing up as an open vessel for experience and for healing without the judgment, without all of the baggage? Can we step into our relationships and our experience of the moment, not just looking for peace, but looking to generate peace? People we are walking by have just experienced loss, have just experienced a diagnosis. Some are on the verge of divorce or a breakup. Some are in the middle of grief. Some are moving on or off medications. Some have sleep issues and social anxiety. Some look like on social media or when you meet them, they're perfectly well. But they're going home and they're in the midst of fear, or they're in the midst of anxiety, or in the midst of trauma, whatever it is. Even if it's small things, maybe it's just a small thing. But we bring that self with us everywhere we go. And most people don't stop to share, don't stop to ask. They just judge. That's the baseline. They come up with ideas and crystallized notions about the world, about systems, about each other, and then live from there. live from that space. If you really think about it, in most of your interactions, how deep are they? How much information do we get? How much is really shared, right? Like, really think about it. In these experiences we have, how much is actually communicated versus how much is assumed and generated and made up? What stories are we making up? The mind jumps, the mind leaps, putting things together, putting experiences together, putting limited observations together to create a cauldron of judgment and a new image. When we live from those images, we do a disservice to ourselves and other people. And sometimes that disservice spills out. It flows over. And we transfer our baggage, our mental limitations onto others. There was a sharing that Randy Fickey, who leads the Unity Southeast, one of our sister communities, there was a sharing that they posted this week, and I found it quite interesting. I don't know if he wrote it or not, or they just reposted it, but it said this: "You are holding a cup of coffee when someone comes along and bumps into you or shakes your arm, making you spill your coffee everywhere. Why did you spill the coffee? Why did you spill the coffee? Because someone bumped into me." The answer is shared. Wrong answer. You spilled the coffee because there was coffee in your cup. Had there been tea in your cup, you would have spilled tea. Whatever is inside the cup is what will spill out. Therefore, when life comes along and shakes you, which will happen, whatever is inside you will come out. It's easy to fake it until you get rattled. So we have to ask ourselves, what is in my cup? When life gets tough, what spills over? Joy, gratefulness, peace, humility, anger, bitterness, hard words, and reactions. Life provides you the cup. You choose how to fill it. Are we filling our cup? Are we noticing what our cup is filled with? So often we hide what's in our cups. We don't let someone know. But if we were just to shift how we show up and step out of judgment, we might see a whole different reality. Has anyone done that, where you had a judgment, you had an idea about people? Maybe they post the perfect life on Facebook. Maybe you just had assumptions about what they're living with or how their lives are. But if you really engaged, if you really decided to meet them and have an authentic interaction, you've realized something entirely different. Something that shifts your entire judgment and, in fact, shifts how you show up with them. There are people in this world that we judge as being deficient or faulty. But I challenge us into the possibility, the idea that if we knew their story, if we really knew their story, that it's possible, instead of judging them, we might be proud of them. We might be celebrating them. We might be celebrating the person that just snapped at us when they used to beat their wives. We might be celebrating the person that seems a little awkward or seems rude if we saw how much it took for them to even get to the point of an interaction. We might not judge someone who doesn't look up at us if we could see past the veil and realize they were on the verge of tears and it took everything to get out that day. If we open ourselves up to what is behind the veil, we would step out of judgment. The master teacher in John 8:15 says, "You judge according to the flesh, I judge no one." You judge according to the flesh, I judge no one. That means the call is to step out of the idea of judging according to what something looks like on the outside, according to what we think our experience is, according to all of the ideas that are in our head, our own cauldron of experience, the ideas of the flesh, the ideas of what's visible, what comes to mind, and instead judge no one. If you can't judge or you don't judge, again, what are you left with? We're left with the idea that I have no idea what's going on. And that leads us to either compassion or humility or an invitation for vulnerability and to ask questions and to go deeper. People need loving kindness. People need compassion. We all have baggage. A friend said to me, the trick is not to give anyone else your baggage to carry. So are we willing to take the pauses that it takes in this life to generate peace? Not to look around and be in judgment, in continual judgment about how peace is not generated around us. But can we take a moment when we feel disturbed, anytime, every time we feel disturbed, and breathe into the possibility that even this judgment I know nothing about? And can I release it for a higher calling? Because the greatest gift we could give to each other, the greatest spiritual honor we can give to another person when we're walking the path with them and our peace is disturbed, is to not allow them to transfer their baggage to us. To not allow them to disturb our peace. To instead open the space for healing, be the space for healing within oneself and the healing of another. That is truly one of the greatest gifts that we can give to someone, is not to pick up the baggage and then pass it along, not to scream when the coffee is spilled all over, but just to be mindful and to recognize, there's coffee in that cup. There's coffee in that cup. It's not about who bumped into who. We have no idea what's going on. If we truly knew in every moment, we would step up. We would step into our greatness. We would step into loving kindness, and we would always tread lightly. I was about to call a friend this week. We had a little bit of clearing to do over something, and I was about to send a text saying, hey, let's talk about this thing. Let's connect around this. And it would take some mindfulness to do that connection. And I saw just a little bit later a post on Facebook about them having lost their 2 dogs. Without any detail about how they lost 2 dogs at once, right? Could you imagine fumbling into that? Complicating an experience with that when someone's going through something challenging. Something else would spill out. Something else would spill out. And it wouldn't have anything to do with what you are bringing up, right? It wouldn't have anything to do with what you're bringing up. The truth is, we can't find out what's going on with everyone all the time. right? We can't be on social media enough. We can't ask enough right questions, and everyone's not going to be comfortable sharing all of the time, right? But we can be mindful. We can pray before we speak. We can ask for guidance to know what is ours to do, what is ours to say, and the times that we think, I know what's going on, and this is it, and I'm ready to go for it. If we just pause and ask in prayer for that guidance, we will receive grace. We will know without knowing what is ours to do and when. We will know when to offer a hand, when to hold our tongue, when to share a story. What will flow out of your cup? Will it be judgment, or will it be compassion? One waits for peace to happen to them in a container that peace can never fill. And one generates peace. You have no idea how much the world needs your peace. Your neighbor, your coworker needs your peace. Your family needs your peace. Your partner, your child, your parent, your community. The person we meet is the one we make ourselves available to. We either pass along our baggage and the contents of our cup spills onto others, or we are the open, vulnerable space of compassion and loving kindness. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Namaste.